The Nintendo Switch 2 is just around the corner and still as expensive as ever, and honestly, I don't think I'm gonna buy it until either Tomodachi Life Living the Dream has a Switch 2 edition, an OLED version comes out, or a special Zelda edition comes out. One of these will definitely happen before the others, but that's not important right now. While I wait to give my money to Nintendo for a brand new system and the latest games, I'd like to revisit one of my older consoles, give a little tour of my collection, and show some love to my consoles. And of course, the console that I'm talking about is none other than the Nintendo 3DS. My first ever console was a Wii U that I got a lot of fun out of despite its terrible reception and misleading advertising. But the Wii U was a console that was stuck at home, and I wanted a handheld console that I could take on the go and play with my friends. So my sibling and I had our sights set on the new 2DS XL when it first launched. During a quick trip to Best Buy, my sibling and I convinced our dad that the 2DS XL was the must-have console. I have no idea why he said yes, but it was probably because we didn't ask him for a Switch. We ended up picking up a console for each of us and copies of Pokemon Moon, Tomodachi Life, and Animal Crossing New Leaf to play. Now that I had my very own 2DS XL, I could finally play games with the rest of my friends at school. My friends and I would always sneak our 3DSs at school to play Mario Kart, Animal Crossing New Leaf, and Mario Party Island Tour with each other. I was actually the only one that got caught playing on my console during class, and so my dad had to meet with my 7th grade teacher to get the console back. Eventually, my sibling moved on from the 2DS XL, but around that same time, our youngest cousin asked for his own video game console, so my sibling's 2DS XL went to him, and he was overjoyed to play on it. He still plays it to this day, and I even modded it for him. His console was actually the second 2DS XL I modded. The first one I modded was actually my own. I modded my console back in 2023 right before the eShop went down, and I say that it is something you absolutely must do if you own a 3DS. This is your PSA to mod your consoles whenever possible because it adds so many fun and useful features. My top 6 recommendations for 3DS homebrew apps have to be Get You This Badge, Anemone, NetPass, HShop, Twilight Menu, and Checkpoint. These apps add a lot of customization to the 3DS experience, expand the 3DS's library to the DS, and offer a lot of neat features for games. After I modded my console, I remembered that a friend of mine from middle school had a Zelda edition that I really liked. I had been working my first part-time job, and I thought to myself, I have some money coming in now that I haven't spent, and there is an item I would like to buy. Perhaps it is time to make a purchase. I scrolled a bit on eBay and found the exact version for the wonderful price of $230. It was a tough purchase at the time, but seeing how expensive the console has gotten since then, I'm glad I made the purchase when I did. After getting the Hyrule Edition new 3DS XL and modding it, I gave my 2DS XL to my siblings so that they could play some of the games that we enjoyed as kids. Unfortunately, it's been lost to the void of space, and we have not been able to recover it since. But that's all of the physical 3DS consoles I've ever owned. Let's move on to the games that I own and have played. Animal Crossing New Leaf was one of the first games I picked out, and I had a lot of fun with it. I spent a lot of time on New Leaf. I think I have around 130 hours on the game before and after I restarted my town. For my initial playthrough, I made it my goal to fill up my museum, and although I didn't get close, I had a lot of fun trying to find all of the little creatures and fossils in my town. My friends and I also shared a lot of golden fruits with each other in order to spread our wealth amongst each other like a proper community. On my second playthrough, I was mainly just trying to get back to where I left off in my previous run, where I had Gracie's shop and all the other shops upgraded. I still revisit my town every few months, and it always reminds me of a simpler time in my life. Next up is Pokemon Moon. For someone who's never played the Pokemon games growing up, I was still very much surrounded by the franchise via the Indigo League, Diamond and Pearl, XYZ, and Sun and Moon animes, the trading card game, and whatever Pokédex books I found at the local school fair. Being able to play my very first Pokemon was a special experience, and I enjoyed every second of it. I loved the atmosphere of Alola and all the new Pokemon designs that they had for the region. I'm getting around to Pokemon Ultra Sun eventually, but until then, I think Pokemon Moon is definitely my favorite Pokemon game ever. Tomodachi Light Truthers, rise up! I think the first time I ever heard of this series was when I saw Dan TDM play it for the first time, and I was kind of obsessed. I loved seeing how dramatic the Miis were and how the entire game was a neat little community with new things happening all the time. Once I got my new 2DS XL, this was one of the first games I so desperately played. I spent a lot of hours on the game and adding people from school, my favorite fictional characters, and seeing what shenanigans unfolded. I unfortunately lost the original cartridge I had, but I bought the game again digitally in 2019 and restarted my island, as well as buying a cartridge off of someone on eBay before the game was $110 US. Anyways, I'm very excited for Tomodachi Wife Living the Dream, and I hope they make gay people real. Honestly, I had no idea how to play a Fire Emblem game, and I don't think I even made it past the prologue where you had to make a choice between the Hoshido clan and the Nor Kingdom. Of course, I've heard a number of things about the game since I first played them, and honestly, I don't think I'll go back to them for a while. I'll stick to 3 houses. Thank you very much. In my first year of high school, right before the pandemic happened, my friends and I would often go to the mall near our school and just hang out. One day we decided to stop by at Best Buy just to see what unique electronics were in stock and to play the Switch game demos. I wandered over to the 3DS section and saw Fire Emblem Warriors on sale for $15. I had no idea what the game was even about, and if I didn't have a new Nintendo 2DS XL system, I definitely would have screwed myself over by purchasing it and not being able to play it. I honestly didn't enjoy it too much. I played it maybe 1 or 2 hours, but A, I'm not a Fire Emblem diehard fan, so the game didn't appeal to me too much, and B, I don't really enjoy hack and slashes. I'd be able to play a game like Hyrule Warriors because it features Zelda, one of my favorite game series of all time, but other than that, Warriors games are definitely not my thing. I was debating someone in a class about which Zelda game was the best, and then out of nowhere this person pulled out a cartridge of Ocarina of Time 3D and just told me to play it. I was at first surprised that this person was just willing to entrust a whole game to me, and second, I was a bit wary of playing any Zelda game that wasn't Breath of the Wild. At this point in time, I had only ever played Breath of the Wild, and I was absolutely livid that it was the best Zelda game, and nothing could ever hold a candle to it. I remember looking at a few YouTube videos of Ocarina of Time later that day and thinking, man, this game looks so limited, why can't you even turn your point of view with the C-stick? Eventually, my curiosity did get the better of me, and I booted up the game to see what the big deal was. I, unfortunately, have not finished it. I only ever finished up to the Forest Temple, and I haven't gone back to it since. I know, call me a fake Zelda fan, but I promise I will get around to streaming my playthrough of it sometime this summer. For my birthday, one of my friends just randomly gave me his cartridge of Yokai Watch to play the games for the first time. I used to watch the anime a lot when it aired on Disney XD, and I was fascinated by the idea of a Pokemon-like world that had a more realistic setting. Unfortunately, I also haven't finished this game or any of the other Yokai Watch games aside from like the first 2 hours. Now onto my physical games that are just sitting in my collection waiting to be played. I currently own Pokemon X and Y, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Majora's Mask 3D, Codename Steam, and Dragon Quest VII Fragments of the Forgotten Past. I don't have anything really to say about these games. I just generally have a long backlog of Pokemon games, and now with my modded 3DS, I have a lot more games to catch up on aside from those. But that's the entirety of my physical games collection for the Nintendo 3DS. Let me know if you enjoyed this little collection tour and what your thoughts are on the Nintendo 3DS down in the comments. The 3DS has always been a fun console for me to go back to, and it looks like its popularity has been slowly resurging. My finals are now almost over as well, so I should start streaming more often now that summer has arrived. Yippee! Hopefully I'll start with streaming Deltarune Chapters 1 and 2 on Twitch, but for sure I will be streaming Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 on June 4th around 7 PM, so look forward to that. But until then, I'll see you all in the next one.